A desperate landing. The quantum field equations on Marcus Chen's holographic display blurred as his eyes struggled to focus. At 2 a.m., his private laboratory on the outskirts of Seattle should have been shut down hours ago. But sleep had become a distant memory since he detected the anomalous energy signatures 3 days earlier. The coffee maker gurgled in the corner, brewing its 8th pot of the night, when the first tremor rattled his equipment. Marcus grabbed his desk, steadying himself as the vibrations intensified. The electromagnetic sensors he'd installed throughout the facility screamed to life, their readings shooting off the charts. "That's impossible," he muttered, staring at the numbers. The energy signature matched his theoretical predictions for quantum tunneling, something that should only exist in his simulations. The night sky erupted in brilliant purple light. Through the laboratory's spylight, Marcus watched as what appeared to be a tear in reality itself ripped open. A sleek vessel, its hull gleaming with an otherworldly iridescence, punched through the rift moments before it collapsed. The ship was falling, trailing plasma and debris. Its trajectory would bring it down less than a mile from his facility. Marcus grabbed his emergency kit, force of habit from years of experimental mishaps, and ran for his Tesla. He reached the crash site just as the dust began to settle. The vessel had carved a trench through an abandoned industrial lot, finally coming to rest against a concrete barrier. Its hull bore scorch marks and battle damage, but the design was unlike anything human engineering could achieve. Flowing lines of light pulsed beneath its metallic skin, growing steadily dimmer. As Marcus approached, a section of the hull rippled and dissolved, revealing a figure stumbling out of the wreckage. His breath caught in his throat. She was humanoid, but clearly alien, her skin a pale lavender that seemed to shimmer in the moonlight, hair the color of starlight floating as if suspended in water. Her eyes, when they met his, were entirely silver with no pupils or iris. She took 2 steps forward before her legs gave out. Marcus rushed to catch her before she hit the ground. Despite her alien appearance, she felt warm and solid in his arms, her heartbeat a rapid flutter against his chest. "Please," he whispered, and to his shock, he understood her perfectly. "They're coming." The air crackled with energy. Above them, 3 more tiers in reality began to form. The alien woman tensed in his arms, her silver eyes wide with fear. "I'm Lyra," she said urgently, pressing something into his hand, a crystal that pulsed with inner light. "If they take me, destroy this. Better it be lost than fall into their hands." Marcus looked at the crystal, then at the approaching rifts, and made a decision that would change the course of human history. "I have a lab," he said, "shielded from most forms of detection. Can you walk?" She nodded, though she leaned heavily against him as they made their way to his car. The rifts had fully formed now, disgorging vessels similar to Lyra's but darker, their hulls bristling with what were unmistakably weapons. Marcus helped Lyra into the passenger seat just as energy beams began slicing through the air around them. He jumped into the driver's seat and floored the accelerator. The Tesla's electric motor responded instantly, launching them forward as weapons fire turned the crash site into a crater behind them. "They're assassination drones," Lyra explained, her voice strained. "Programmed to eliminate their target at any cost. Your vehicle, it's primitive but effective. The autonomous targeting systems may have trouble tracking its unconventional power source." Primitive. Marcus couldn't help but smile despite the situation. This is top-of-the-line Earth technology. Earth. Lyra's silver eyes widened. "By the stellar concordat, I've crashed on a pre-contact world. This complicates matters significantly." She winced, pressing a hand to her side where her iridescent clothing had darkened with what Marcus assumed was blood. "You're hurt," he observed, taking a sharp turn onto the private road leading to his laboratory. "I have medical supplies, but I'm not sure how effective they'll be for your physiology." "Minor knights will handle the physical damage," she replied. "But I'm not at full strength, and what I carry is too important to risk." She held up the crystal she'd given him earlier. In the Tesla's interior lighting, He could see it was actually a container of some sort, filled with swirling genetic material. "What exactly is that?" Marcus asked, pulling into his laboratory's underground garage. The heavy security doors closed behind them with reassuring finality. "The future of my species," Lyra said softly. "And now, perhaps, humanity's first step into a much larger universe." She turned those mesmerizing silver eyes on him. "Tell me, Marcus Chen, how much you know about quantum genetics." Before he could answer, the laboratory's perimeter alarms began to wail. The assassination drones had found them more quickly than expected. As Marcus helped Lyra from the car, he noticed her skin was growing paler, the shimmer fading. "Your lab," she said urgently. "You mentioned it was shielded." Marcus nodded, leading her toward the main research area. "Quantum isolation fields. My own design. Blocks most forms of exotic particle interaction and—" "Perfect," she interrupted. "We need to get inside those fields immediately. And then, Dr. Chen, I'm going to tell you why the fate of 2 civilizations now rests in your hands." The sounds of weapons charging echoed through the garage behind them. As they rushed through the laboratory's security doors, Marcus couldn't help but think that 3 days of investigating strange energy signatures had led to something far beyond his wildest theories. He was about to discover just how right he was. Trust in the unknown. The quantum isolation field hummed to life around Marcus's laboratory, casting everything in a subtle blue glow. Through the reinforced windows, he watched as the assassination drones circled the building, their weapons unable to penetrate the protective barrier. "Impressive," Lyra said, studying the field's containment matrix. "You've independently developed quantum shielding technology. Perhaps this world isn't as primitive as I first assumed." Marcus moved to his workstation, bringing up real-time data from the field generators. "Actually, this was theoretical until about 3 minutes ago. I've never pushed the system to full power before." He glanced at the readings, frowning. "Though I have to admit, I didn't design it to stop alien weapons. And yet it does." Lyra's silver eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Your equations must have accidentally tapped into universal quantum principles. That's exceptionally rare." She swayed suddenly, catching herself against a lab bench. The shimmer beneath her skin had dimmed to an almost imperceptible glimmer. Marcus rushed to help her to a chair, noting how her skin felt cooler than before. "You're getting worse," he observed. "Those nanites you mentioned, they're not healing you." Lyra held up the crystal container, its genetic material swirling more sluggishly now. "My condition and this sample are linked. I'm not just carrying it, I'm sustaining it. Every moment I maintain its viability drains my own life force." "Then stop sustaining it," Marcus said. "Whatever it is, it's not worth your life." Her laugh was bitter. "It's the pure genetic code of my entire species, extracted before the corruption began. Without it, the Etherian race will be extinct within a generation." She met his eyes. "My life is a small price to pay for the survival of my people." Marcus sat down at his workstation, running his hands through his disheveled hair. "Okay, back up. Corruption? Extinction. Why don't you start from the beginning?" "The Etherian Empire spans 17 star systems," Lyra began. "For millennia, we prided ourselves on our genetic purity, our ability to metabolize quantum energy directly, giving us our distinctive appearance and certain abilities." She gestured to her shimmering skin. "But something went wrong," Marcus guessed. Lyra nodded. "A faction within our scientific council attempted to enhance these abilities artificially. The resulting mutation began spreading through our population like a virus. Those affected lose their connection to quantum energy, becoming," she shuddered, "empty. Hollow shells of their former selves." She held up the crystal. "This contains uncontaminated Etherian genetic material, but it's unstable. It requires constant quantum energy to remain viable. I can provide that energy, but not indefinitely." "And those assassination drones?" "Sent by the same faction that caused this disaster. They'd rather see our species die than admit their mistake. Her expression hardened. I stole this sample and fled, hoping to find. She paused, staring at Marcus with sudden intensity. What? He asked, unnerved by her gaze. Your quantum field equations, she said slowly. The ones you developed independently. May I see them? Marcus pulled up his research on the holographic display. Lyra's eyes widened as she read through the complex mathematics. Impossible, she whispered. These equations, they're a perfect match for Aetherian genetic quantum resonance. How did you? A violent tremor shook the building, stronger than any weapon impact. Lyra rushed to the window, her face paling. No, they wouldn't dare. Marcus joined her, watching in horror as a massive ship emerged from a new reality tear. Unlike the sleek assassination drones, this vessel was angular and dark, bristling with malevolent purpose. A Purifier-class battleship, Lyra explained grimly. They're escalating beyond assassination. They'll level this entire region to eliminate us. Marcus studied the ship's energy readings on his instruments, his mind racing. These quantum field equations, you said they match your genetic structure. Yes, but... And this sample needs quantum energy to stay viable. Correct, but I don't see. Marcus turned to her, his expression intense. What if we could use my quantum field technology to stabilize the sample, free you from having to sustain it? Lyra shook her head. The only way to do that would be through direct genetic quantum resonance. You'd need an Aetherian's neural pattern to... She stopped, her silver eyes widening as she looked at his equations again. Unless... Another blast rocked the building. Warning lights flashed as the quantum isolation field began to fluctuate. Your theories, Lyra said urgently. They shouldn't be possible for a human to conceive unless... She stepped closer to Marcus, raising her hand to his face. Where their skin touched, a subtle shimmer passed between them. Remarkable, she breathed. Your genetic structure, it's partially compatible with ours. Somehow, you naturally process quantum energy in a similar way. That's why you could develop these equations. The building shook again. The quantum field was weakening. Compatible how? Marcus asked, though part of him already knew the answer. Compatible enough that you might be able to help me stabilize this sample, to save my people. Lyra's expression was a mixture of hope and uncertainty. But the process would create a permanent quantum entanglement between us. Our minds, our very beings, would be linked forever. Marcus looked at his equations, then at the battleship preparing to destroy everything in its quest to eliminate them. Finally, he looked at Lyra, an alien princess who had crashed into his life less than an hour ago, appending everything he thought he knew about the universe. What do you need me to do? Before Lyra could answer, the quantum isolation field flickered dangerously. The battleship was powering up its main weapon. They had minutes at most, before the shield failed completely. And in those minutes, Marcus would have to decide if he was ready to bind his fate not just to an alien princess, but to the survival of an entire civilization. The nature of humanity's first steps into the galactic community hung in the balance, and time was running out. Hunters and prey. The quantum isolation field crackled ominously as Marcus and Lyra raced through the laboratory, gathering equipment. Above them, the Purifier-class battleship's energy readings continued to spike. The genetic resonance chamber is our only chance, Lyra explained, her movements growing more sluggish as she helped Marcus modify his quantum field generators. But we'll need a stronger containment field than this to survive the bonding process. Marcus connected another power core to his system, watching the energy readings stabilize temporarily. You still haven't explained exactly what this bonding entails. You said our minds would be linked. More than that. Lyra's silver eyes met his. Your unique genetic structure, it's like finding a lost branch of the Aetherian family tree. The quantum resonance patterns in your DNA are crude compared to ours, but they're there. When we join... The building shook violently, cutting her off. Through the laboratory windows, They watched as black-clad figures descended from the battleship on streams of dark energy, elite troops of the corrupted faction. Void hunters, Lyra whispered, genuine fear in her voice. They're not just here to kill us anymore. They want to capture us alive for study. Marcus finished the final connections to his modified containment field. Why would that be worse than? A piercing screech filled the air. Both of them clutched their heads as the psychic attack battered their minds. Through watering eyes, Marcus saw the Void Hunters approaching the building's barriers, their mere presence seeming to drain the color from the world around them. That's why, Lyra gasped. They fully embrace the corruption. They don't just want to study us. They want to break us, turn us into vessels for their twisted version of evolution. The psychic assault intensified. Marcus stumbled, catching himself against his workbench. His vision blurred, but through the haze, he saw something remarkable. Where Lyra's hand gripped his arm for support, both their skin began to shimmer with the same quantum resonance. The compatibility, he muttered. It's already starting, isn't it? Lyra nodded. Your mind is naturally resisting their attack. No ordinary human could do that. But we need to complete the bonding now, or we'll both be lost. Another blast rocked the building. Warning sirens blared as the main power grid failed, leaving them on emergency backup. The Void Hunters had reached the outer doors. The resonance chamber, Marcus said, fighting through the psychic static clouding his thoughts. What do we need? Moving quickly despite her weakened state, Lyra placed the crystal containing her species' pure genetic material into the modified containment field. Your quantum equations provided the framework. Now we need a catalyst, a direct neural connection between us. That doesn't sound ominous at all, Marcus said, managing a weak smile despite the situation. There's more. Lyra's expression was grave. Once we begin, we can't stop. The quantum entanglement will rewrite portions of both our genetic codes. We'll be permanently bound to each other and to the fate of my people. The laboratory's reinforced doors groaned as the Void Hunters began cutting through them. Dark energy seeped through the growing gaps, bringing with it an overwhelming sense of wrongness. Marcus looked at the woman before him, an alien princess who had quite literally fallen from the sky into his life. Hours ago, he had been alone in his lab, pursuing theoretical physics that his colleagues had dismissed as impossible. Now he stood on the brink of becoming humanity's first ambassador to an interstellar civilization, all while trying to prevent an alien genocide. You know, he said, stepping into the resonance chamber, I always hoped first contact would be interesting. Despite everything, Lyra laughed, a sound like crystal wind chimes. Interesting is certainly one way to describe it. She joined him in the chamber, their shimmer growing stronger as they drew closer. The main doors exploded inward. Void Hunters pulled through the breach, their corrupted forms moving with unnatural speed. Last chance to back out, Lyra said, raising her hands to Marcus's temples. He mirrored her gesture, feeling the quantum energy begin to flow between them. Would it help if I told you I've had worse first dates? Their foreheads touched. The world exploded into light and sensation as their minds began to merge. Marcus felt Lyra's memories cascade through him. The grandeur of the Aetherian Empire at its height, the horror of watching the corruption spread, the desperate plan to preserve their genetic purity. In turn, his memories flowed into her, years of solitary research, the quiet certainty that humanity's understanding of physics was incomplete, the moment he first detected her ship's quantum signature. The Void Hunters reached the containment field just as the genetic resonance reached critical levels. Through their newly forming bond, Marcus felt Lyra's triumph as the crystal's swirling contents stabilized, sustained by their combined quantum signature. But there was something else, something neither of them had expected. Where their minds touched, new possibilities emerged. Marcus's theoretical understanding of quantum mechanics merged with Lyra's innate connection to quantum energy, creating something entirely new. The containment field wasn't just holding, it was growing stronger, taking on properties that neither human science nor Etherian technology had achieved alone. As their consciousness fully merged, a single thought passed between them. Perhaps this was more than just about saving one species. Perhaps this was about creating something entirely new. The Void Hunters raised their weapons, dark energy gathering around them. But within the resonance chamber, wrapped in light and possibility, Marcus and Lyra had already begun to transform. Their shared destiny was taking shape, and with it, the future of both their peoples. The real question was, what would they become? The hidden truth. The quantum resonance chamber erupted with blinding light as Marcus and Lyra's genetic codes intertwined. The Void Hunter's weapons discharged, dark energy crashing against the containment field, but something unprecedented happened. Instead of disrupting the field, their attacks were absorbed, transformed, and redirected. Through their newly formed mental link, Marcus understood with perfect clarity. The corruption in their weapons, he thought to Lyra, it's the same energy signature as. Yes, her consciousness responded. Now you see the true horror of what was done to my people. The merged memories cascaded between them. Marcus watched through Lyra's eyes as the Etherian Scientific Council revealed their ultimate plan. They hadn't been trying to enhance their species' natural abilities, they had been attempting to weaponize them. The corruption wasn't an accident, it was engineered. Your own leaders, Marcus realized, the truth unfolding in their shared mind. They were developing a way to turn your entire species into living weapons. The Void Hunters retreated as the containment field began to pulse with new energy. Where Marcus and Lyra stood connected, their combined quantum signature had become something else entirely. The genetic material in the crystal resonated with their transformation, its structure stabilizing into something neither purely human nor Etherian. The pure genetic code, Lyra's thoughts rippled through their bond. It was never about preserving our past. It was about creating a future they couldn't control. Through the laboratory windows, they could see more Void Hunters descending from the battleship. But now, with their minds and bodies linked, Marcus and Lyra perceived them differently. The corruption wasn't just destroying their bodies, it was rewriting their basic nature, turning them into conduits for weapons beyond comprehension. Your equations, Lyra continued, her wonder flowing through their connection. They weren't just similar to our genetic patterns. They were the key to undoing the corruption. That's why they sent the purifier after us. That's why they can't let us survive. The chamber's energy reached a crescendo. Marcus felt his consciousness expanding, touching levels of reality he'd only theorized about. Lyra's innate understanding of quantum mechanics merged with his human intuition, creating new paradigms with each passing second. Through their bond, he shared a memory, the moment 3 days ago when he first detected her ship's energy signature. I wasn't just detecting your arrival, he realized. My equipment was responding to a quantum resonance that already existed between us, somewhere in human DNA. A legacy of ancient contact, Lyra completed his thought. My people visited Earth millennia ago, leaving traces of their genetic code, traces that survived in a handful of human bloodlines, in you. The Void Hunters had regrouped, their corrupted forms moving with terrible purpose. But now Marcus could see the pain in their movements, the desperate struggle against their programming. They weren't just soldiers, they were victims. Through their shared consciousness, a plan began to form. The quantum resonance they created wasn't just a means of survival, it was a template for healing. Their combined genetic structure held the key to reversing the corruption. But before they could act on this revelation, a new presence entered their merged awareness. Something vast and ancient stirred in orbit above Earth, having detected their unique energy signature. No, Lyra's thoughts carried a wave of dread. The Apex Protocol. They're activating it. Images flooded their shared mind. Massive orbital platforms hidden throughout Etherian space, designed to enforce genetic purity through devastating quantum weapons. One such platform had been hidden in Earth's solar system eons ago, lying dormant until now. If it activates, Marcus understood through their link, it won't just target us, the entire planet. Their merged consciousness reached out, touching the minds of the void hunters surrounding them. Beneath the corruption, they sensed the trapped awareness of Etherian soldiers, scientists, and civilians, all victims of their leaders' ambitions. The quantum resonance chamber pulsed again, stronger this moment. The genetic material in the crystal had finished its transformation, becoming something that was neither a preservation of the past nor a weapon for the future. It was an evolution, guided by the combined strengths of two species. We can save them, Marcus projected through their bond. All of them, but we'll need help. Through their shared awareness, they felt the apex protocols stirring to life. They had minutes, perhaps less, before it unleashed devastation on an unprecedented scale. But they weren't alone anymore. As their consciousness expanded further, they detected other humans around the world with traces of the ancient Etherian genetic code, each one a potential ally in the coming battle. The chamber's light reached blinding intensity as Marcus and Lyra made their choice. They would not just fight to survive, they would fight to heal, to transform, to evolve. In orbit, the Apex Protocol began its activation sequence. On the ground, the Void Hunters pressed forward, their corrupted forms trembling with destructive power. And in the quantum resonance chamber, two beings who had been strangers hours ago prepared to reshape the destiny of two civilizations. The true battle for survival was about to begin, the final stand. The Apex Protocol's activation sent ripples through space-time that Marcus and Lyra felt in their merged consciousness. Through their enhanced awareness, they watched as the ancient orbital platform shed its camouflage, revealing a massive structure that had hidden behind Earth's moon for millennia. 90 seconds to full power, Marcus projected through their bond, his human capacity for calculation enhanced by Lyra's quantum awareness. Once it fires, it will rewrite the genetic code of every living thing on Earth, Lyra completed, converting your world into a staging ground for the Council's weapon program. The quantum resonance chamber hummed with power as they worked in perfect synchronization. Their merged consciousness reached out to the void hunters surrounding the laboratory, touching the trapped minds within their corrupted forms. Each contact revealed more horror, generations of Etherians transformed against their will, their very essence twisted into weapons. Through their shared memory, Marcus relived the moment Lyra discovered the truth about her people's leadership. The Council hadn't been trying to save their species, they had been preparing to transform it into an army capable of conquering the galaxy. The corruption wasn't a mistake, it was a trial run. Your father, Marcus understood suddenly, feeling Lyra's pain. The Emperor, he discovered their plan. And they killed him for it. Lyra's grief flowed through their connection, made it look like the corruption had taken him. That's when I knew I had to steal the pure genetic sample. Above them, the Apex Protocol's weapon began to charge, its quantum signature a perversion of everything the Etherians had once stood for. But now, with their minds linked, Marcus and Lyra saw what had to be done. The resonance pattern, Marcus projected, his scientific understanding merging with Lyra's innate knowledge. If we can broadcast our combined genetic template through your people's quantum network, we can give them a choice, Lyra completed, a way to reject the corruption, but the power required. Marcus smiled physically even as their minds raced through calculations. Good thing I never cleaned out my storage room. Through their link, he showed her what he'd been working on in secret, experimental quantum capacitors deemed too unstable by his university colleagues. Devices that could, theoretically, tap into the same energy field that powered Etherian technology. You impossible human, Lyra's thought carried equal measures of admiration and concern. Those could tear reality apart. Or, he countered, they could save it. The Void Hunters had formed a circle around the resonance chamber, their weapons charged but holding fire. Through their shared consciousness, Marcus and Lyra felt the original personalities struggling against their programming, drawn to the promise of freedom the combined genetic template offered. They had to act fast. The Apex protocol was seconds from firing, and the battleship above had begun charging its main weapon. Everything hinged on perfect timing. Working through their merged awareness, they began rerouting power through Marcus's quantum capacitors. The genetic material they'd stabilized would serve as a template, broadcasting through the very network the Council had built to spread their corruption. "The capacitors won't survive this," Marcus warned. "Neither will we if we fail," Lyra responded, her determination flowing through their bond. The chamber's energy reached critical levels as they initiated the broadcast. Their combined genetic template, human innovation merged with Etherian quantum mastery, began flowing through the network that connected all of Lyra's people. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Void Hunters surrounding them convulsed as their original personalities fought against the corruption. Through their shared consciousness, Marcus and Lyra felt thousands of minds awakening across the galaxy as the template spread, offering a choice: remain weapons or reclaim their true nature. But the Council had planned for resistance. The Apex protocol fired, its beam of corrupted quantum energy lancing toward Earth. At the same time, the battleship launched its attack on the laboratory. What happened next would be debated by both species for generations to come. The quantum resonance chamber, powered by Marcus's experimental capacitors and fueled by their merged consciousness, caught both energy streams. Instead of being destroyed, Marcus and Lyra's combined genetic template used the incoming power to amplify its broadcast. The Void Hunters were the first to transform. Their corrupted forms melted away, revealing their original Etherian appearance. But they weren't simply returning to their previous state. They were evolving into something new, a perfect balance between their original nature and their enhanced capabilities. Through the quantum network, the transformation spread. Across 17 star systems, Etherians began to change. Not into weapons, as the Council had planned, but into a new form of life that combined the best aspects of their original nature with the strength to resist corruption. The Apex protocol's weapon began to overload, its programming unable to cope with the cascade of changes rippling through the quantum network. Above them, the battleship's crew broke free of their conditioning, turning against the Council members who had commanded them. But the victory came at a cost. The quantum capacitors were failing, their experimental containment fields buckling under the strain. The resonance chamber's energy had reached levels that threatened to tear apart the fabric of spacetime itself. Through their merged consciousness, Marcus and Lyra faced a final choice. They could survive by shutting down the broadcast, but doing so would strand thousands of partially transformed Etherians in a dangerous intermediate state. Or they could complete the transformation, knowing it might cost them everything. In the end, it wasn't really a choice at all. Together, Marcus projected through their bond. Always, Lyra responded, their shared consciousness reaching the quantum network one final time. The resonance chamber erupted in light as they pushed their combined template to its limit, completing the transformation that would forever change two civilizations. The question was, would they survive to see what they had created? A new dawn. Consciousness returned slowly, like light filtering through deep water. Marcus opened his eyes to find himself lying on the floor of his laboratory, surrounded by the wreckage of the quantum resonance chamber. The air sparkled with residual energy, tiny motes of light dancing through the ruins. "Lyra," he called out, his voice hoarse. For one terrifying moment, his mind felt empty, the merged consciousness gone. Then he felt it, not the overwhelming connection they'd shared during the transformation, but something subtler. A gentle presence in the back of his mind, like starlight on still water. "Here," she answered, both aloud and through their remaining bond. She sat up a few feet away, her appearance somehow both familiar and transformed. Her skin still shimmered with quantum energy, but now similar patterns flickered beneath Marcus's own skin. They had become something new, not quite human, not quite Etherean, but a perfect balance between the two. The others, he asked, though through their link he already knew the answer. Lyra smiled, gesturing to the laboratory windows. Outside, the Void Hunters had transformed. Their corrupted forms were gone, replaced by beings that glowed with the same balanced energy that now flowed through Marcus and Lyra. Some were helping others who were still adjusting to their restored consciousness, while others were already at work repairing the damage from the battle. The template worked, she said. Across all 17 systems, our people are transforming. The Council's weapon program has been completely neutralized. Through their bond, Marcus felt the scope of what they'd achieved. The merged genetic template hadn't just saved the Etherians, it had evolved them. Each transformed individual now carried both the wisdom of that ancient culture and the adaptability that had allowed humanity to develop quantum physics independently. And the Apex Protocol, he'd asked, though he could see the answer in the sky through the broken ceiling. The ancient weapon platform was dissolving, its structure breaking down into harmless quantum particles that rained down like aurora borealis. The battleship hung peacefully in orbit, its crew fully restored and already reaching out to make contact with Earth's governments. "It's over," Lyra confirmed. "The Council's power is broken. Those who survived the transformation are already calling for a new form of governance, one that combines Etherian tradition with human innovation." Marcus finished, a smile playing on his lips. "Exactly." She stood, offering him her hand. Where their skin touched, the quantum patterns brightened momentarily, though we have a more immediate challenge to face. Marcus raised an eyebrow. More immediate than saving two civilizations. Through their bond, he felt her amusement and something deeper. The genetic merging hadn't just saved her people, it had created a connection between them that transcended physical attraction or political alliance. "Earth's governments will be arriving soon," she explained. "Someone needs to help them understand what's happened, to show them that this transformation isn't an invasion or a threat, but an opportunity." Marcus looked around his destroyed laboratory at the advanced technology now scattered among his own experimental equipment. "You want us to be ambassadors?" "Who better?" Lyra's silver eyes met his, now flecked with human-like iris patterns. "We bridge both worlds. We can help humanity understand what's coming, help them prepare for their place in the galactic community." Through their connection, Marcus felt the truth of it. The transformation hadn't just saved the Etherians from corruption, it had given humanity a fast track to the stars. His quantum research, combined with Etherian technology, would revolutionize human understanding of the universe. But more than that, he felt the personal truth through their bond. What had started as a desperate alliance had become something profound. Their merged consciousness had retreated to a more manageable level, but the connection remained, a bridge between two souls who had found each other across the vastness of space. "There will be challenges," he said, taking her hand. "Fear, resistance. Not everyone will welcome such dramatic change." "True." Lyra's fingers intertwined with his, their quantum patterns synchronizing. "But we faced impossible odds before, together." Outside, sirens approached as Earth's authorities converged on the laboratory. Above, the transformed battleship began broadcasting a message of peace in all Earth languages. And through the quantum network that now connected both species, countless minds reached out in wonder, ready to embrace a new era of cooperation and discovery. Marcus pulled Lyra close, their energies merging in a softer echo of their transformation. Together, he agreed. Through their bond, they felt the future unfolding, not just for themselves, but for both their peoples. It wouldn't be easy. Nothing worthwhile ever was. But they had proven that the impossible was possible when two civilizations worked as one. As government vehicles surrounded the laboratory, Marcus and Lyra stood ready to face whatever came next. They had saved each other, saved their peoples, and in doing so, had created something entirely new. The dawn of a new age had arrived, and they would face it as they had faced everything else since that fateful crash landing, together. In the sky above, the last particles of the destroyed Apex protocol painted the heavens in sheets of quantum fire, a reminder that endings could also be beginnings. And in the hearts and minds of two beings who had found each other across the stars, a simple truth resonated. Sometimes the greatest adventures in the universe begin with a single act of trust.